I discovered my girlfriend was secretly meeting up with her coworker for more attention and passing it off as a client meeting. So I asked her to leave and sat back as their situation unraveled. My name is Alan. I am 33 and I work in operations for a mid-sized logistics company in Chicago. My days are split between early calls with warehouses, putting out small fires, and trying to keep everything moving on time. I am not flashy, but I am consistent, and I like a home life that feels stable. My girlfriend is Amber, 30. We have been together a little over 2 years, and she has been living with me for the past 10 months. She works in sales at a marketing agency. Her schedule is supposed to be flexible, lots of lunches, client visits, networking events, and last-minute meetings that pop up on her calendar. When we moved in together, we agreed on the basics. I cover the rent since the lease is mine. She covers groceries and a couple bills, and we split bigger stuff. It has been mostly fine, except Amber has a way of turning any minor inconvenience into a personal attack. If I forget to swap the laundry, I am apparently incompetent. If I ask what time she will be home, I am controlling. If I mention that she has been on her phone through dinner, I am being dramatic. The thing is, I have never been the jealous type. I have female friends from work. She has male coworkers, whatever. I do not police her social life. But over the last couple months, a pattern started to form that fell off in a way I could not explain without sounding paranoid. Amber began using one phrase constantly, client meeting. It became a magic pass that shut down every question. She would get dressed nicer than usual on random weeknights, leave at 7 or 8, and come back late with a mood that was either smug or irritated. If I asked how it went, she would roll her eyes and say it was boring, then immediately lock herself in the bathroom to take a long shower. The details never matched. Sometimes she said it was downtown, sometimes River North, sometimes a suburb. She never had materials with her, never mentioned what the client wanted, never complained about deliverables, which is basically all she used to complain about. And the weirdest part was how defensive she got if I tried to connect dots. Not angry like she felt accused, more like she felt entitled. Last week I noticed something small that I cannot unsee, and I am trying to figure out if I handled what happened next the right way. Last Thursday, Amber told me she had a client dinner in West Loop. She mentioned it casually while scrolling on her phone, like she was reminding herself more than telling me. I asked which client, mostly out of habit. She said a new tech startup she was trying to land. No name, no details, just important opportunity. She left around 7. She was dressed sharper than I had seen her dress for work in a while. Not inappropriate, just intentional. New heels I had not seen before. Hair done. Makeup heavier than her usual daytime look. I remember thinking that if this was about closing a contract, I hoped it worked. Around 9:30, I sent her a simple text asking if she would be home before midnight because I needed the car in the morning. She responded 15 minutes later with a short message saying things were going great and they might move to another bar to keep talking numbers. That part did not sit right. I have worked with enough sales teams to know client dinners are structured. They do not randomly migrate between bars at 10 p.m. to keep talking numbers. They wrap up, expense it, and go home. At 10:45, I checked her location on Find My. Not something I usually do. We share it for safety. She was not in West Loop. She was in a quieter neighborhood about 20 minutes north. Not near any obvious business district. Just a strip of small restaurants and apartments. I did not text her again. I just noted the address. When she got home after midnight, she smelled like a sweet cologne that was not mine. Not heavy, just there. She went straight to the bathroom again, same long shower routine. When she came out, I asked how the big tech startup was doing. She rolled her eyes and said I would not understand because I do not work in marketing. That was the first moment I felt less confused and more certain. The next morning, while she was still asleep, I checked something I had ignored before. Her laptop was on the kitchen table. I did not guess her password. I did not need to. Her work calendar notifications were visible on the lock screen. There was no client dinner listed for that night. There was no startup. There was only a repeating entry I had never noticed before. It was labeled attention. At first I thought attention was some internal sales shorthand. Maybe it meant client retention or follow-up strategy. But it was not a one-time thing. It was a recurring calendar block every Thursday night from 7 to 11 p.m. No location listed. No company name. Just attention. I did not wake her up. I went for a run instead because I needed to think clearly before I did anything. By the time I got back, she was in the kitchen making coffee like nothing was unusual. I asked her directly. I said I saw the calendar reminder pop up and asked what attention meant. She froze for half a second, then recovered fast. She laughed and said it was an inside joke with her team about chasing new leads. She said I was reading into it because I have a boring corporate brain. The thing about Amber is that she always goes on offense. Instead of answering, she reframes the question so you look small for asking. She told me I was insecure. She said it was exhausting to feel monitored in my own apartment. She used the word exhausting twice. I did not argue. I just nodded and let the conversation end. Over the weekend, I paid attention to smaller things. She kept her phone face down constantly. If it buzzed, she picked it up immediately and stepped into another room. She started guarding her laptop more closely, closing it fully even if she was just grabbing water. On Sunday evening, she left her phone on the counter while she showered. It lit up twice. The contact name was Ryan from work. The preview text said looking forward to Thursday, and then a second message that read, I like how you look at me when you need attention. I did not screenshot it. I did not confront her mid-shower. I just set the phone back down exactly where it had been. That was the moment the situation shifted for me. Not because I was heartbroken, because I was done being treated like an idiot. On Monday, I told Amber we needed to talk that night. She rolled her eyes and said she already had plans. Another client meeting. I told her to cancel it. She laughed and asked if I thought I could control her calendar. I told her it was not a request. She did not cancel it. At 6:30 that evening, she was getting ready in the bedroom, moving around with that same deliberate energy I had started to recognize. I stood in the doorway and told her we were not doing this in circles. I told her I saw the messages from Ryan. I told her I saw the recurring calendar entry. She did not look embarrassed. She looked irritated that I had interrupted her routine. Her first response was that Ryan was just a coworker who understood her. She said he listened when she vented about work. She used the word listen like it was something I had failed to provide. Then she pivoted and asked why I was going through her phone. I corrected her. I did not go through her phone. I saw what appeared on the screen she left on the counter. I kept my voice even and asked one clear question. Are you meeting him privately every week because you need something from him that you are not getting here? She exhaled sharply and said it was not physical. She said sometimes she just needed attention. She said that word again, slower this time. According to her, I had been distant, too focused on work, too predictable. Ryan made her feel wanted and seen. I asked if these weekly attention blocks were the same so-called client meetings she had been describing for months. She shrugged and said sometimes it was easier to call them that because I would overthink it. That was the moment I stopped negotiating. I told her the relationship was over. Not paused. Not discussed. Over. I told her I was not interested in being with someone who schedules emotional intimacy with another man and then reframes it as my shortcoming. I told her she needed to pack her essentials and leave that night. She stared at me like she was waiting for me to back down. When I did not, her expression shifted from smug to sharp. She said I was overreacting. She said I would regret throwing away 3 years over something that was not even cheating. I told her she could define it however she wanted. In my apartment, it was enough. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and set it on the bed. I told her she had 30 minutes to gather what she needed and that we could coordinate the rest later. That was the first time all evening that she looked uncertain. She packed fast, but not quietly. Drawers opened harder than necessary. Hangers scraped across the closet rod. It was controlled anger, the kind meant to provoke a reaction. I stayed in the living room and did not engage. I wanted the separation to be clean, not theatrical. After about 20 minutes, she came out with a half-filled suitcase and her work bag. She stood there waiting for me to say something softer. When I did not, she switched tactics. She said I was insecure. She said every ambitious woman needs validation and that I was punishing her for having options. She framed it like I should be grateful she had not taken it further. That part actually clarified things for me. If restraint is presented as a favor, the boundary is already gone. I told her I was not interested in debating definitions. Weekly secret meetings with a coworker where she admits she needs attention from him is enough for me. I reminded her that I did not yell, I did not insult her, and I was not dragging this out. I was ending it because the trust was broken and I do not do partial trust. She asked where she was supposed to go. I said she could stay with friends, with family, or with Ryan. That was her decision. The lease is in my name. She is not on it. I checked that before I said anything final because I am not reckless with housing issues. She stared at me for a long second when I mentioned Ryan. That was the first crack in her composure. She said it was not like that. I told her it was exactly like that. She left around 7:15. I watched from the window to make sure she actually drove off. Then I locked the door and sat down in a quiet apartment that felt different immediately. Not empty, just calm. About an hour later, my phone started lighting up. Calls, texts, first from her, then from an unknown number I assumed was Ryan. I did not answer either. Instead, I made one practical move that I probably should have made months earlier. The practical move was simple. I changed the Wi-Fi password, logged out of every shared streaming account, and removed her fingerprint access from my building app. None of it was dramatic. It was just administrative cleanup. If someone no longer lives here, they no longer have digital keys. Then I muted her number. I did not block it yet because I wanted a record of what she said. Same with the unknown number. I let the messages stack up without reading them immediately. There is something grounding about delaying reaction. Around 9 p.m., I finally opened them. Amber's first few texts were predictable. You are overreacting. We need to talk like adults. I cannot believe you did this. Then they shifted tone. I never cheated on you. It was just talking. You are throwing away something real because you are insecure. The unknown number was more direct. This is Ryan. I think you misunderstood the situation. Amber is upset. Call me so we can clear this up. That message told me everything I needed to know about him. A man who feels comfortable contacting his co-worker's boyfriend the same night she gets kicked out is not confused about boundaries. He is invested. I did not respond to either of them. The next morning, I emailed the building management to confirm Amber was no longer an authorized occupant. I also checked our joint savings account. We had one for travel and shared expenses. I transferred my contribution out and left exactly what she had deposited over the last 10 months. I sent her a short message stating the amount and that the account would be closed in 48 hours. She replied within minutes, accusing me of being petty. I ignored that and focused on logistics. I told her she could schedule a time that week to pick up the rest of her belongings while I was present. No drop-ins. Around noon, I got another message, not from her this time. It was from a number saved in her phone as Ryan from work, but this time it was a screenshot. And it was not meant for me. The screenshot was clearly not meant for me. It was a message Amber had sent Ryan earlier that morning. It said something along the lines of, I cannot believe he actually ended it. I thought he would fight harder. Now I look stupid. Under that, Ryan had replied with relax. He will calm down. Guys like him always do. You said he is stable and predictable. He will miss you by the weekend. Then there was one more line from Amber that made everything click. I just needed more attention. I did not think he would choose his ego over us. Ryan must have accidentally forwarded the screenshot to me instead of someone else. Or maybe he meant to provoke me. Either way, it confirmed two things. First, this was not an innocent emotional vent. Second, she genuinely believed I would not follow through. I did not respond to the screenshot. I saved it. Then I blocked both of them. No announcement. No final message. Just removed access. About an hour later, my phone was quiet in a way it had not been all week. No calls. No notifications. Just silence. Through a mutual acquaintance later that evening, I heard what happened next. Ryan apparently went to the apartment where Amber was staying and tried to confront her about the breakup. From what I was told, he had assumed she would be fully available now that I was out of the picture. She had assumed he would stay in his lane as a distraction. Those assumptions collided fast. By the next day, it had reached their office. Ryan's girlfriend, who also works there, found out about the Thursday nights. Apparently, Amber was not the only one calling them client meetings. I did not reach out to confirm any of it. I did not need details. The pattern was obvious. What she thought was a controlled arrangement built around attention was never stable. It was built on ego and secrecy. And once I removed myself from the equation, the structure collapsed under its own weight. 3 days after I blocked them, Amber emailed me from a new address. The subject line was simply, "Can we talk?" I almost deleted it without opening it, but I wanted to see if there was anything logistical I needed to handle. The tone was completely different from before. No sarcasm. No superiority. She said things had gotten complicated at work. She said Ryan's girlfriend had gone to HR. She said rumors were spreading and it was affecting her accounts. She wrote that she never meant for any of this to spiral and that she felt overwhelmed. What stood out was what she did not say. There was no apology for lying. No acknowledgement of the weekly deception. No ownership of calling it client meetings. The entire message focused on how messy things had become for her. At the end, she wrote that she missed our stability. That word again. Stable. Predictable. As if those were fallback settings she could reactivate once the excitement stopped being convenient. I responded once, briefly. I said her remaining belongings would be boxed and ready on Saturday at 11 a.m. I said a friend of mine would be present. I said this would be the last direct contact unless something legal required it. She replied within minutes asking why I was being so harsh. I did not answer. On Saturday morning, I packed everything methodically. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, framed photos. I separated anything that was clearly mine and set it aside. I documented the condition of the apartment in case things escalated. Not because I expected drama, but because I do not leave loose ends. When she arrived, she did not come alone. One of her friends was with her. Amber looked tired. Not heartbroken, just inconvenienced. She tried one last time. She said we could go to counseling. She said what happened with Ryan was a wake-up call. She said she realized she almost lost something real. I told her she did lose it. There was no yelling, no scene. She signed a simple acknowledgement that she had collected her belongings. Then she left. As her car pulled away, I felt something that was not anger and not relief. It was clarity. Over the next couple of weeks, bits of information reached me indirectly. I did not go looking for updates, but Chicago is smaller than people think, especially when you work adjacent industries. From what I heard, HR did get involved. Nothing dramatic in the legal sense, but enough internal scrutiny to make both of them uncomfortable. Ryan's girlfriend ended their relationship publicly. Apparently, she confronted him at a team happy hour. That detail came from someone who knows one of their coworkers. I never verified it, and I did not need to. Amber sent one final email about 10 days after she moved out. It was longer this time. She said she underestimated me. She said she thought I would cool off and ask her to come back. She admitted she enjoyed feeling pursued by two men at once because it made her feel powerful. That was probably the most honest thing she had written. She also said Ryan was not what she imagined once things were no longer secret. She described him as needy and reactive. She said the attention felt flattering when it was hidden, but suffocating when it became real. Reading that, I understood something important. She did not want a different relationship. She wanted contrast. She wanted me as the stable base and him as the excitement. Once I removed myself, the comparison disappeared. There was no longer anything solid to orbit around. I did not reply to that email. I archived it. On my end, life became simpler quickly. My apartment stayed clean. My evenings were predictable in a way that felt calm instead of dull. I started seeing friends I had not made time for in months. I went back to the gym consistently. Small things, but intentional. A mutual friend asked if I was angry. I told him I was not. Anger implies unfinished business. I ended it cleanly. I did not chase explanations. I did not beg for validation. I made a decision and followed through. The strangest part is that I do not miss her personality. I miss the idea of who I thought she was. And that difference matters more than I expected. It has been a little over 3 months now. Amber and I have not spoken since the day she picked up her things. She tried following me on social media from a new account about a month ago. I ignored it. I am not interested in monitoring her life or offering her access to mine. Clean breaks stay clean because you do not reopen them out of curiosity. From what I understand, she is still at the same company but moved to a different team. Ryan transferred offices. Whether that was voluntary or encouraged, I do not know. I stopped asking for updates because the story no longer involves me. I have replayed the situation a few times in my head, not to torture myself, but to audit my own behavior. Could I have communicated better before it got to that point? Maybe. I work long hours. I am structured. I am not spontaneous by default. But needing variety is not the same as scheduling weekly deception. What bothered me most was not the emotional crossover. It was the entitlement. The belief that I would remain the stable option while she sampled validation elsewhere. The assumption that I would fight for someone who openly admitted she needed another man's attention to feel alive. If I had stayed, I would have taught her that my boundaries are flexible under pressure. I would have taught myself that discomfort is something to negotiate rather than respond to. I am not interested in either lesson. I do not hate her. I do not think she is evil. I think she likes intensity and admiration, and she miscalculated how much structure she actually depended on. When the structure disappeared, so did the balance. As for me, I have been dating casually, nothing serious yet. The difference now is that I ask direct questions earlier. If someone describes themselves as needing constant excitement or external validation, I listen closely. The apartment feels like mine again. The quiet feels earned, not lonely. I did not sit back and watch their situation unravel out of revenge. I stepped aside and let natural consequences take over. That distinction matters. When someone tells you they need attention from someone else to function, believe them. and then decide if you want to compete for something that should not require competition in the first place.
Orders that are representative of the national reality. After you released the interview with us on January 2nd, 2025, we pursued a 5.5-month blistering campaign to convince 188 blank slate Texas legislators to fund the single largest psychedelic research and medical development project in history, that being the $50 million Texas Ibogaine Initiative. We had the assistance of some in-state allies, one of which was Texans for Greater Mental Health, led by a dear friend and brother of mine, Logan Davidson, who was my right hand, going to meet with legislators continuously while I set up shop at a hotel here in Halston and lived here just about part-time, wearing the shoe leather off, sweating, and making sure that everybody who needed to be introduced, educated, and motivated to get behind this would do so. At the end of this 5.5 months, we secured the votes of yes of 181 out of 188 legislators between the Texas House of Representatives and State Senate. There was one individual who we had to persuade at the 11th hour to get behind this project. On May the 14th, 2025, just 36 hours before the Texas budget was finalized, this bill that would create the first unified FDA drug development trial with Ibogaine in U.S. history was not funded. I woke up that morning, and I believe very much in keeping your prayers in the closet, as Jesus taught, and not getting out there parading about it. But on that morning, I got a call, and it was, hey, we're getting to the 11th hour. We don't have money to secure this. It may not make it. We've done everything that we can. And I literally got down on my hands and knees and said, God, please let this happen. And if it cannot happen, help me understand why. 3 hours later, I got a telephone call asking if I could go and meet with the Texas House Speaker and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I went at 4:30 in the afternoon on May the 14th and spent an hour with these two gentlemen going back and forth about what this project was, why it was so existentially necessary for Texas and the country. And on Friday morning, May the 16th at 10 a.m., we got a text message from Lieutenant Governor Patrick confirming that he would approve and fully fund the Texas Ibogaine Initiative. As we walk in here today, literally, just 10 minutes before we walked into your studio, I can confirm that the great state of Texas is going to fully fund the Texas Ibogaine Initiative, originally intended to be a public-private partnership, but now has decided on its own to commit a full $100 million to launch the development of Ibogaine all the way through the FDA's drug development process for the benefit of the American people. To do so on its own, without any drug development partner, and to do it for the good of humanity.
That's phenomenal. So what did you have to say to Dan Patrick to convince him of this? And kudos to him for doing this.
Well, I had some very wonderful advocates